So now I'm going to talk about what I like to call the eye chart. Like you go to an eye doctor and they have an eye chart, but this is eye like the imaginary number chart. So here's what you want to remember. I is I. Now this all has to do with having I raised to an exponent. Okay, so I is I. Like if you have I, that's just I. It doesn't simplify anymore. I squared, though, is -1. Now, we told you that. I squared is -1. Remember, I talked about that. Okay, now let's think about I cubed. Well, I cubed would be like I squared times I, which would be -1 times I, which would be -I. So I cubed can be simplified to -I. What about I to the 4th? Well, I to the 4th is like I squared times I squared, or -1 times -1, which is 1. All right, what if we had I to the 5th? You might be saying, well, how long is she going to do this? I to the 5th is like I to the 4th times I, but I to the 4th is just 1. So that's just going to be 1 times I, which is I. What if you had I to the 6th? Well, you could write I to the 6th like I squared. Well, let me put I to the 4th first. I to the 4th times I squared. Remember, because you add exponents when you're multiplying like bases. Okay, but I to the 4th is 1, and I squared is -1. So you get -1. What if you had I to the 7th? Well, that'd be like I to the 7th would be like I cubed times I, oops, I was putting I to the 4th first. I to the 4th times I cubed. So I to the 4th is 1. I cubed was -I. So you're just going to get -I. And then what if you had I to the 8th? Well, that's going to be like I to the 4th times I to the 4th, 1 times 1, which is just 1. Okay, and I'm going to stop there. That's a pretty long eye chart. But what I want you to notice is it's cyclic. See how it goes I, -1, -I, 1. I, -1, -I, 1. It's going to repeat that pattern for every 4th exponent. Like the next one, would I to the 9th, would be I. I to the 10th, oops, would be -1. And it's going to follow this pattern here where it goes I, -1, -I, 1. Just repeats. Okay, but I'll show you how you can use it in the next video.